Well, obviously, the caveat that needs to be thrown out there is that between now and that period, over the next couple of weeks, anything can happen in terms of deals that could be made to facilitate a transaction on the part of Miami, New York, or anybody else. But in light of the fact that I don't anticipate that really being able to happen, I'm going to say that LeBron James will remain with the Miami Heat. I think that Cleveland is not a franchise that can be ignored simply because of LeBron's desire, his family's willingness to go home if indeed he decided to do that. I think it's something that they would embrace. But the Miami Heat are a first-class organization. They find a way to get things done. I don't anticipate that D. Wade is going to go anywhere despite all the things that have been said. And I think that when you look at it from that perspective, the fact that I have faith in Pat Riley and Mickey Arison and what they do as an organization, that Eric Spoelstra is just a bright young coach who will only get better and better and better. When you look at the from a geographical purpose, from, just Miami being what it is and what have you, it would be pretty difficult for me to imagine that LeBron James will leave. Cleveland is still a possibility, but I just see people flocking to LeBron and Miami, assuming they're able to create enough room to do some things, rather than it being LeBron electing to leave elsewhere. At this moment in time, right now, anything can happen over the next 2 weeks in terms of deals being made, but right at this moment in time right now, I would have, if I had to bet my money, it would be on LeBron staying in Miami.
I think he will still be in a state of flux. I think that, again, he can start negotiating July 1st, and feel free to disagree, Stephen A., but even though I don't think we will have the decision this time, I think we will have the process that we've seen again and again from LeBron James, by which he will meet with several teams methodically, slowly, surely. He will play the field. He will play all of our emotions. I think he will bask in the attention and the glory of being what you have called the most coveted free agent ever. Brian Windhorst has called him that on this show. Wouldn't you agree with that? Most coveted ever?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So won't LeBron string us all along in not a bad way, but in his way? He can be the drama king, and I say that in a very positive perspective. But I think he will take his time on this. I also agree with you. I think he will come full circle and stay with Miami. That's just a gut feeling. I have no inside info on that. But to me, Bosh is only 30 years of age. Dwayne, for all the mileage on his knees, is only 32 years of age. And I believe Dwayne Wade will do everything in his power through this offseason to get his knees the best he can get them going into next year, and maybe to get a little fitter going into next year. So we step back and say, what advantage would Miami have next year? Well, listen, they didn't just lose the NBA Finals. They got embarrassed. They got humiliated and annihilated in ways never thought possible that the big three could get humiliated and annihilated. So finally, they should be driven next year in ways they've never been driven before, because all of a sudden they should embrace being the hunter for the first time in 5 years, as opposed to being the hunted that they were from the start. So I like LeBron in Miami, but I do think, and Avery Johnson's very strong in this, Avery's starting to lean toward LeBron going back to Cleveland. And I made the case yesterday. I believe Daryl Morey will make a very convincing pitch to LeBron to go to Houston. And I think he will think hard about going to Houston, but I'm with you. I think ultimately, and it may be on July 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever LeBron, just wait at least until the 7th till we get back. Okay. Because we need you on the 7th, right? Maybe he'll give us a virtual decision on this show on the 7th.
Yes, perhaps. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right, Stephen A., anything to say to that?
Well, it's interesting that Skip brings that up because, see, I don't think that LeBron is going to look to leave to go anywhere other than Cleveland. Obviously, Houston can make a case, and we all know that, because you got Dwight Howard and James Harden. You've got a case. There's no question about it. But I think that ultimately it's one of those situations where I'm not convinced Chris Bosh is going to stay. I think that Chris Bosh, even though he's going to be owed $40 million if he opts in, I think it's entirely possible that Chris Bosh he could go out there and get another $80-90 million deal, whether it's from L.A. or somebody else, even a Houston, for crying out loud. Think about Chris Bosh in Houston with Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to something like that and what he could do. You got Houston. You got Dallas, because that's where he's from, and what they can do, because they owe Dirk Nowitzki some help. Rick Carlisle is an exceptional coach. He knows what he's doing, but he did a lot with what he has. They could use, somebody of Bosch's experience and talent to pair with a Dirk Nowitzki. Now, that's not the most muscular front line or the most fiercest front line, but at the same time, they could be highly productive on the offensive end of the floor because they could put the ball in the hole. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Chris Bosh leaving. If Chris Bosh leaving, that creates space. If it creates space, that's space that they could use to bring on somebody else, Marquis, which would be even more attractive for LeBron James to want to stay. And I think one of the things that Dwayne Wade has learned, and if he hasn't learned yet, he needs to learn this, is that guess what? Rather than come 2 games, miss another game or whatever the case, get that knee operated on and miss the first half of the season. Be out from now until January, February, or whatever the case may be, because it's really about the long haul for him. And if you're LeBron James, you don't want Dwayne Wade in and out. You'd rather him be out and stay out until he's ready to come back and be all in. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's the way that you would like it to do. So if you've got that kind of plan, which I'm pretty sure that Pat Riley would have, then I think it's something that you entertain. I think it's something that's incredibly attractive to you, and I think it's something that you should think about doing. And that's why I think that LeBron is going to stay, because if there's any organization that would have that kind of plan in place, it would be Miami.